Hello everyone, welcome to Meshery Development Call. Today is December 6th, and this is a specific call where we discuss different aspects of Meshery, which is a CNC project. We discuss about back and front end related progress in the project. And Meshery, if you don't know, is a CNC progress project. It's basically about managing cloud native infrastructure across multiple Kubernetes clusters, and it's one of the configuration management tools. So today we have a couple of agenda items. But before we move forward, there are a couple of housekeeping items. One is first, if you are joining live from the Zoom, then please consider adding your names in the meeting minutes. I've shared the link in the chat. The second is we allow our newcomers to introduce themselves. So let's see. I think Vihas is new on today's call. Vihas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey all. This is my second call after the newcomers meeting. And I'm V.S. Makwana and I'm currently working as a full-time software engineer. I contribute to Meshery in my free time that's all.
Thanks for joining. You are already making great strides. And I think that's all we covered, everybody. Rest all our old timers. So let's start quickly with our first item, that is from Abid and Yash about enhancement to Views API and Visualizer. Yash or Abid, would you like to take one?
Okay, give me a
Hey, while we're waiting, I just want to confirm, it's Vihas, right?
Yeah,
That's how.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, and you say it like emphatically, like Vihas is here. The guy's been raising PRs faster than you can keep, faster than you can review. So it's been good. Vihas, did you get your Meshery badge? Your Meshery?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right, very good. Just you gotta like puff out your chest a little bit, wear it proudly. So good. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Makwana.
Yeah, Makwana, yeah. That's my surname, yeah.
Ah, very good. Very good. All right. Well, I'll just keep harassing you until Yash interrupts me, I suppose. Where are you dialing in from? What part of the country?
Yeah, the western part, it's the city is Ahmedabad and the state is Gujarat. The Indian folks would know, yeah.
North of Pune, like as far
that's
west.
correct. Yeah, that's correct. North of Pune.
Okay. Oh, nice. Not too close to Pakistan though. Like
no, it is.
Far
Yeah, it shares the border with Pakistan, but I live far away. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, anytime, no, Yash.
okay. Okay. Thank you, Yas. Thank you, Lee. Okay, so there is a couple of advancement in the Views API. So let me recap what actually Views is. So if you go inside the playground and if you click on Visualizer, it will open a views for you. I'm not sure why this is happening for me. I wonder if there is some problem with my connection with the Kubernetes cluster. So, but if you go inside the playground and if you switch from designer to views, you can visualize your infrastructure. Yeah, thank you. So so you can visualize your infrastructure and save your filters that you made for the views. So this is the way you can visualize the infrastructure, and you can preferences your filters, and you can save them as a views, and you can share with your friends later on. And yeah, it's same like a design. So there are a couple of enhancements we made in the API to support metadata in the API, so that we can in future we can also share that and store more of other stuff in the views, and also add a visibility as a param, so that now we can filter with multiple params for the visibility. So there are a couple of enhancements that we made, and this is now released, and you can uh, pull it pull the latest changes, and you can try out the new changes, and you can give a review if you had any. And the whole UI is mainly have contributed by Abid. So I will give Abid a chance to give more about how you can use the views in your local system.
Yeah, actually, I think like it's not working on Playground. The Go mode might have got out of sync. That's why the plugin is not loading. So that can be fixed later. But so coming to views, so this is a recent enhancement to the visualizer, which is our where we can visualize our like cluster, topologically visualize our cluster, and the new enhancement has been more towards like how we manage the filtering of all of the data that we have on hand. And previously we could filter on, like this was previously also present, that we could filter what the data, but they were not like saved and we can't share them, so which wouldn't facilitate multiplayer and collaboration, which is at the heart of what Meshery does. So to enable that, we are having this new construct of views into visualizer, and to easily grasp it is just like how we have designs in designer, which we can edit, create, share, and copy, clone, and that's the same thing that we can now do with views, and that gives us additional power in visualizer to how we manage our infrastructure. And in future, what's more important is like we would really have the multiplayer mode here, so different collaborators and people can just view their infrastructure and have just can know and be on the same page, and that is something that's on the list. And right now this enables us to save the filters. So right now we can take a quick benefit is like if we have a specific view of how we want to visualize our infrastructure, which data is important to us, we can just create that filter and save it as a separate view, and we can actively monitor our infrastructure using those views. So like suppose I am pretty much interested in the API service that we have, I can just click on that and that is on present me now. I can visualize that data. And in same way, if I want to look at my multi-cluster view or a single node view, we can create them and we can just share them, and there is no limit how many you can create. And we can also, like a quick action that I recently added was, we can export these views, so you can have a static data also, and later you can import them also. So that would be also added, so we can export these views. And also, as Yash already mentioned, we would have the feature to share the views. Currently we can share it, like we can't actually properly share it, but we can control its visibility, like who you want to have this view as visible. And we do support private, so it would be only visible to you, and you can make also your views public, so anybody can use the same views. And apart from that, we also have like quick filtering enabled, so you can just filter on whether you want to view private or public views. And actually, like that's mostly it that we have right now for the views, and there would be more feature enhancements also. So like any questions, enhancement, any requests?
Wow, that's pretty significant. I don't know that some of us that are looking at this potentially don't realize how significant of a change this is. Just before we talk more about views, could we look back at what people have come to know in terms of the dashboard? So when people land in Visualizer from the releases prior up to today, they might see this honeycomb selector for like the Visualizer dashboard. Okay, and so we have this got this thing called details. It shows you this grid style selector. So you go through, you choose, visually you choose what type of resource you want to filter on. And so you can click on one or more of these. They highlight or fade based on whether or not they're the filter is enabled or not. Okay, very good. And so it updates real time in the graph. And then at some point, this details / dashboard. So we're on the details tab, but we're sort of on the dashboard, if we can call it that, filter. And then at one point, you end up seeing details of the resource as well. Can you show how that happens?
Yeah, so if we click on some particular resource, then the details of that comes up. Like if I click on Kubernetes, like, yeah, like this one has some particular details and that's available to us now, like the ports, and wouldn't show like all of the data that's available to us. And this is like, I think, handpicked some of the values that we show, but we can like improve that also.
Okay, so there's more, you're saying there's a lot more data under the covers that can be exposed for each, that's specific to each individual resource. Well, not just resource type, but instance of that resource. This Kubernetes service, it has more details than what we're showing, but okay. I'm curious, there's a toggle in the upper right-hand corner between summary and details. In this particular case, does it, okay, so it does expand and contract okay. Now, as you guys go to make this change, the way for a user to return to that visual honeycomb filter is to click on a blank
anywhere on black area on the canvas.
And so I wonder if people won't get lost, or if they, and so in a couple of areas in Meshery, just a few, we will slide to the left, slide to the right, like the navigation is like that. Is that the thinking? Is that like the paradigm behind this inner tab navigator? Because the tab basically has two personas, right?
Yeah, actually, I think either we should make it explicit, like divide the section into the dashboard and the details, and then we can contract the dashboard section and expand the details section, so user would know why to go back without like tapping anywhere else, like, because that's a bit confusing, as I already said. So we can just like tap, like there would be a back indicator, or then the dashboard would expand, and when we click on something, then the details would expand. And that might also give the user like there are details present without knowing the first way to click them. So there would be like no node selected right now, so you can have that empty state.
It sounds like a great time for ideation, for some brainstorming. It sounds like the mode that, well, I guess that's an open invitation for everybody that's on the call. What do you thoughts? What do you think? So if you run through that one more time, Abid, if you take it from the top, if somebody comes into Visualizer, there's a set of default views. They can kind of zoom in, zoom out. They can change some of the filters here to look at particular things. But yeah, do you mind like refreshing the page and going kind of from the experience that people have right now? So that the question here for everyone, and please do make suggestions, please do think aloud, is the tasks that people have when they're here. This is the live running infrastructure. They're here to ensure that everything's healthy, ensure that workloads are deployed. They're in operation mode. They're able to interact with and touch the infrastructure. They can open up a terminal. They can look at current metrics, that kind of a thing. And so they might curate their view because there's going to be lots and lots and lots and lots of resources. They want to whittle it down to particular types of views. Maybe it's a view for a particular workload. Maybe it's a view for a particular customer and the traffic that they have, or the deployment that they have. And so then once they curate the view, they give it a name and can save it off, or they can come in and just ad hoc create new views and not save them. They just throw away. As someone explores what's in their infrastructure, there's some amount of discovery that happens. There's any number of things that people just might not realize, like, oh my God, like, oh, I didn't know that we didn't fully uninstall Cilium last time, or excuse me, whatever that discovery is. And so part of them discovering is the ability to display and filter resources. One of the UX, one of the experiences that is offered in terms of filtering resources is right now it's sitting on this tab called details. And so Abid, when they initially go to details, they see a filter.
It's like an overview of first what kinds of workloads are present in the cluster, and also it gives a bit of more resource, like how many of them are present, like it aggregates them also. And I think we can also do the same thing from filtering here. So this like of a quick jump list of filters and also kind of aggregation for our cluster. We can achieve also the same thing from filtering for kinds here.
Wonderful. So the question to everyone is, well, if you navigate this one more time, so right now you can show and hide things on the canvas by clicking and unclicking resources in the honeycomb, right? Actually, specifically, Abid is just this honeycomb and the details thing that we're. And when you do things show and hide, and then as you interact with elements with nodes on the canvas, you'll then see specific details about that entity. But how do you get back? But so to me, as a user, I lose my way, like where I was to where you just put me, and I don't know how to get back to the honeycomb. Other than maybe I would eventually figure out to click on the blank part of the canvas, but there's something better than this. I think you acknowledge that. And so who has thoughts on the call? What else can be done here? Should that honeycomb ever be removed? Should it just should it minimize and slide to the top and show you the details below of the particular node that you're currently on? Should it?
If we can have a cookie crumb thing like we have in design configurator, there also we give a way of navigating back. So
and so say a little bit more, Pranav, with from sitting on the honeycomb, what would happen from there when you drill into a node?
yeah, if we try to click on any node, then the base path would be dashboard, and then the name of the node will come as the subpath. And then if you want to go back, you can click on dashboard, and then it will automatically take back.
Okay, kind of like I guess my brain goes to kind of like you do on your mobile device. You sort of click on something for details, it swipes, or it shifts. You sort of go left, go right. Good. Who else? Who else has ideas? That's great. Oh, Rex, any thoughts? Anything pop to mind? Victoria, how about you?
I probably have to rewatch it and see properly, because to be honest, I didn't catch most of what was explained, and I don't want to drag anybody back. So maybe if I go through again, I might have some ideas and share them.
Victoria?
So I may have to try to use the the details tab to understand how it can improve.
Okay. All right. I know you're both spending your time wisely on this call. You're both highly in tune and paying attention. All right. So we went over it twice, by the way. So you can blame your network this time. Who else? Other ideas? The concern here is that people, can you just sort of play with it, Abid, as we're talking over it, so these guys can try to catch up? The concern here is that people lose their way. The navigation jumps too quickly, too far, and they were sitting looking at a honeycomb like this. They're able to filter, show, and hide resources, and see a quantity of the number of that resource type. Once they select a particular object on the canvas, though, that honeycomb is replaced with details, and all of a sudden their world receives a jolt. It's like, how do I get back to where I was filtering before? Okay, so maybe about the fourth time or fifth time that we described it.
A very easy fix could probably be just shifting the honeycomb down. And then I don't know if anybody has mentioned this, but moving the honeycomb below, and then any other details that have to appear at the top. Then the honeycomb is just there below. If they move away, the honeycomb is still present. So it doesn't have to go away. I don't know if that was.
Nice. Any other ideas? Anybody else have other ideas as well?
If the details are not much, can they not be shown on hover? Like when they hover over the honeycomb, the part of the honeycomb that they want to get the details, then the details can just appear on hover instead of having to switch to this.
Yep, that's a good thought as well. It ends up being the case that one cell of the honeycomb can represent any number of resources. And when you click on a resource on the canvas, it's actually just one of those. And so it would still be an aggregate. It can make sense to do what you had just said, Victoria. There's still an aggregate level of information that could be shown outside of just a simple number. So that there could be an intermediary step of like, yeah. What else? What else? What other thoughts? Maybe the honeycomb doesn't belong there. Maybe there's an actions tab that we have currently. And Abid, if you navigate there, it's likely that this actions tab will go away, or rather that those actions are intended to be performed directly on an entity anyway. So they would just move to this context picker. And those are the same actions. As a matter of fact, those are the same actions. And so we're going to free up a whole section here. Could be that one section is dedicated to dashboard. The other one's dedicated to details. That clarifies, doing it like that clarifies navigation, although I don't think it's such a great idea. I think it's still difficult to navigate because you'd be on the dashboard, you'd be filtering, you'd click on a node, and on the right-hand side, it would switch over to details. You might more readily understand that if you want to get back to the honeycomb, you click back to what would be called like the dashboard tab. So the dashboard tab would be in the place of actions, but it's still, while you don't get lost per se, you wouldn't, I don't know that it would be a very pleasant experience. Who else has ideas? You guys all use software all day long. You've got a panel in Zoom. Yeah.
I have an idea. How about could you just go back to the honeycomb? But once we have the honeycomb, when you click on a specific item, that will now zoom into focus, like covering a much more significant part of that particular section. And then to go out of it or back to the default view, just click out within the same area, but just click out, and then it will zoom back down. And then so that the honeycomb stays rather static, but it depends on which item comes to focus.
Abid, you can help facilitate this ideation. It's good. Did you catch what Mr. Kiptoon had said?
Actually, like I lost a bit while he was like, if we'd like focus on a single item, why we would then show the details like when we want to see the details, because we'd have the honeycomb also present on the same tab.
Okay, but it's so it has multiple functionalities. Okay.
Right now, like I'm thinking like we should probably keep both of these, like the dashboard and the details, on the same page, because like then the user won't need to shift tabs to go between them, and either like collapse one of them when other one is like, so if I go into details, then this one would collapse. And as like it can be easily like opened again, so user can either way then see both details and dashboard at the same time if he wants to.
Other people want to take a crack at it? By the way, you could anybody can do a quick drawing on paper or in any tool that you want to give a thought. We've shown that there's a couple of other tools in this space that focus on observability. They'll visually diagram your actively running infrastructure, which is for the most part what Visualizer focuses on. And so there's prior art in this space.
Like one thing that comes to my mind is like in Designer, when we click on a node, the configuration tooltip comes up. So if in Visualizer, when we click on a node, the details tooltip might come up, and then we don't need a tab.
Oh yeah, that's a super good call out. We have a rating system: good, super good, great, crappy, amazing. I'm just kidding. Good, great. Probably we should give ourselves a time check and say and say thank you to everybody that gave some thoughts. It's really helpful. It's really helpful to get to. Again, if anybody has, as it keeps you awake tonight and you're all thinking about it, feel free to keep the ideas coming through. And it is a healthy, it's healthy to bear in mind the behavior of the other mode designer. The intention here, part of the goal that has been around for a long time, and we're actually not too far away from it, is to meld together the designer mode and Visualizer mode and have them be much more seamless. Yeah, if you bring up a node on the designer canvas and you show that configuration tool, that configuration tooltip that you're referring to, now this tooltip is dense, or rather there's depth to it. There's a whole, you're seeing one view and you can expand and add configurations, and there's a secondary tooltip that will come up if things get deep enough. Okay, so that's fairly, in depth. But outside of, or in addition to that, there's also multiple sets of tabs on the left-hand side, which, just referring back to Abid's suggestion that the details that we were seeing in Visualizer, well, shoot, there's a whole set of tabs here. One of those tabs could be dedicated to, the same info that you would see over there. I mean, that's a very natural,
Like one of the tab will show the spec, like what is the current spec for the component that could be shown, and we could show the labels like here, like or refill these sections, and other than that we might show the metrics and specific things to the Visualizer, so it would make the Visualizer and designer a bit more seamless, and so user coming from designer would know like what to expect there.
I wonder if we don't have other agenda items today. This is a tickler. This is a nice teaser for people. Please bring opinions. Please bring. By the way, it really helps when people say, "I don't like something," like that. That's even better than when you say, "I like this." Like, please be critical openly. As soon as you say that, we'll just politely ask you to leave the call. Okay, but just kidding. But yeah, no, please bring what is this? There's categories of shapes, it looks like.
Yeah, actually, okay, I'm on this slide. So actually, I added the categorization for them. The styles are missing because I think the styles for these components are also corrupted, so I'll fix them. Then the proper styles will show up for each of these. Apart from that, this also kind of done. I have to fix some of the styling. Then we'll have all of these these things. One thing I did like for Meshery and stuff, I removed the Meshery, so because it was getting odd, like Meshery shapes, Meshery core rather than shapes. And I'm displaying them in the same grid view rather than as a list view, the components, as we were previously doing for shapes.
We now have time check. Good, great. We should circle back if we don't have other agenda items. Just it looks like there's more to discuss here.
Thank you, Abid and others. Next item is from Senali and Uzair on register messaging data as connection. Senali, would you like to discuss?
Yeah. Here we have going to register missing data as a connection. So right now we have Prometheus connection data to register as a connection. So we can select the status from the status column using the switch. It will open this pop-up, and then we have to enter the name and the URL of the connection. So in the next step, we need to add credentials. Here we can select any existing credential, or we can add a new credential, and also we can enforce the credential from putting a tick mark in here. Then we can verify the connection. In next step, we need to click the next. Then the connection was created. After that, when you go to the connection tab of the connection table, it will see here the connection as a connection.
Like while we do these transitions, can we add a bit more notifications so user knows like what happened?
Yes, we can. Like it is a kind of modal. Then we can show something similar to that label, right? Yeah.
I think we can also show the receipt like we show for Kubernetes. Like recently we added a receipt which we show like these many clusters were connected and what's the status of them. So if we can do similar thing for these connections as well as we are migrating them. Just a suggestion.
Here we can show a message like the verified credential. So we can do something like that instead of notification, I think.
Yeah, in the final stage, if we can show a little more information about the connections.
Yeah, also like if we tell like we can now find it in the connections tab, so user won't get confused while it got lost or might find it.
Yes, we can show that metadata of the connection here.
There's one more thing, just confirming. So when you click, when you convert any messaging data or the resource to a register state to make a connection, we change the state of the chip to a register. So what happens if I cancel the model, if I don't do any kind of registration? Does that registered state will go back to discovered or stays on this?
Yes, there is a, in this step you can cancel. It will delete the connection which we have created right now. Like in previous step. Like it will delete it.
So if you cancel this model and go back to the main UI,
that does not handle here, like only that from the cancel button only. So I think we can handle that as well. Like,
Cool. What's the ETA here, Sonali? When are you going to be done?
which
For this, for like the Grafana connection.
yeah, it's only for Grafana connection. Like,
Cool. Yeah. When can we expect the Grafana connection is done? The registration of it.
there are few UI issues I have to handle. That's only all the other functionalities are working right now.
Oh, I see. So it's functionally complete as of now, but there's just tidying up. Okay. Okay, cool. Good. By the way, people that have feedback on CSS and things, it's really helpful as you file open, feel free to open up issues. Please do. Just, get specific on where you think you see something that needs cleaned up or a better UX offered. There's a couple of things about this that can perhaps be enhanced over time functionally, outside of just the improvement for show back to user, confirmation back to them that this is happening. We did this and this is what's occurring. Like right here, credential verified. Great. So the credential Grafana operator created. Super generic terminology. Is that the name of the credential? If so, probably it should be in quotes. Created and associated inside of, eventually that might be inside of a particular environment, or like if this one is being reused, if this credential is reused across multiple connections, or is this one brand new? And I'm saying some of this well in advance of what's available to Sonali. So this isn't these aren't things that Sonali has missed. These are things I'm alluding to, things that are right around the corner, that are more or less available as a next step. One of those is this tips. Hey, perhaps that should be specific to Grafana. Like how does Meshery integrate with Grafana? I mean, why would I integrate Meshery with Grafana? What is it going to do to enhance my Grafana experience? Oh, I can tell you, and I'll tell you it'll take us the next 20 minutes, and nobody wants to hear that. But the point is, where it says tips, GitOps is more fun with friends. Invite one today. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Also, it might be nice to know, hey, how does what am I going to get out of this when I'm done? And so that tips area is maybe a place for that, to show off integration specific or resource specific or connection specific things. Part of how that would work at scale, because this Grafana is one of a few hundred different connection types that Meshery will do eventually. That the tips can be specified as part of the connection definition, it would seem. Yeah, nice. Yeah, Abid just typed it before I could say it. And so, okay, force connection bypass, credential verification. Somebody like Lee probably gave some bad input here, because that's difficult to understand quite what that means. So Sonali, I apologize. Anyway, Sonali, great. By the way, anybody else has feedback, please interrupt me. Please do. Looks great. When you finish, can you refresh everyone on the expected behavior from MeshSync, where all things are discovered, and now that this is registered, what happens? Sonali, that question's for you.
Like once the connection was registered, it removed from the missing data and it is registered as a connection and shown in the connection table.
Okay, good. Hey, this is one of those same challenges, everybody, that we were just talking about in Visualizer, where we were talking about that honeycomb and you select something and the screen is updated based on your selection, but you kind of lose your way. It's like, hey, where was I? Because you moved me somewhere else. Now I don't quite know where I am. The same sort of phenomenon is going to happen here. Again, the task that the user is performing and the way that this flows is that the user visits this page. They click on the Mesh Sync tab in the upper right-hand corner. Sonali, if you could maybe advance the. So they go to Mesh Sync. They have a list of infrastructure items. They choose one of the discovered items, choose to register it, step through this wizard. They're successful in registering it. When they click finish, literally specifically what happens right then, Sonali, when they click finish, what happens? Sonali, you just have to verbally say it.
Yes, like once we finish, it changed the status to registered, but it doesn't disappear from that missing data. But once you go to the connection table, it appears here. After that, you can't see that data in the missing data table.
Vihas, did you follow that? Just pick on you for fun.
I did not.
Oh, okay. No sweat. I get it. Did anybody else get the issue there? Like where the user might get frustrated? Where might the user get frustrated?
Yeah, essentially, there's no link between once you've finished setting up the resource and maybe viewing the resource. So that's what Lee is trying to allude to. Can we have something that would quickly point to the user to, hey, you've just set up this resource, but this is where it is. Something to quickly link the two.
Yep, that's the deal. And it's kind of, it might be a two-part question. It's sort of in the moment, what's happening. And then subsequently, like the next day, when I come back and I remember that I registered that Grafana connection, and, I remember that I had initially found Grafana under the Mesh Sync tab. So maybe mistakenly, or, maybe just I go visit the Mesh Sync tab and I'm looking for that Grafana connection that I know I registered yesterday. It's in here somewhere. Why are all these things discovered? Where's that Grafana? It's not here anymore. Because the way that it works right now anyway is that Grafana connection will now be represented as more of a first-class citizen under connections, because these things are loved on a bit and taken care of, and Meshery integrates with them. Versus, so Mesh Sync being really just focused primarily on discovery and fingerprinting, identification, like facilitating that registration process, that process by which, users step in and annotate, apply credentials, configure the integration. And once that connection is formalized as not just being some resource, some nameless resource out there, but something that you want Meshery to deal with and integrate with, it is more or less promoted from like a discovered state to a connected state. And all the connected state resources are shown under connections. So in some sense, the difference between these two tabs is really just status. It's like two permanent status filters. Does that do anything for the problem? Because the problem is the next day you come back, you go look at Mesh Sync and you're looking for your Grafana connection. It's not there. It's like, what happened? Oh, it's on the connections page. But I didn't, mentally, I hadn't made that switch, or mentally, I don't understand that. Do we bring these pages together as just one page and help really facilitate the filtering of status? Because that's largely, again, the difference between connections and Mesh Sync. Well, I'm just stumping everybody. I mean, a lot of people today, not everybody. Daniel's keeping up. He's
I just want to add, like, recently we also exposed meshing data on dashboards, so it's kind of redundant currently because we are showing the same information in two places. So if we can improve on that.
Hit everybody with that one more time, maybe, Pranav?
Yeah, I was saying that recently we exposed meshing data on dashboard under different subtabs. So I was
Yeah.
saying that it's kind of redundant because we are showing the same information here as well under meshing page. So if we could do something to distinguish them.
Yeah, I follow you. I just don't know that everybody else does unless Sonali or whomever, Sonali was to go there. So Pranav, just to reiterate, you're saying, hey, look, we were just discussing the sort of UX challenge around the difference between resources that Meshery has discovered over here and resources that Meshery is committed to managing, connected. That, and you're highlighting is the fact that like all these resources here, this accounts DB config, it's a config map. Well, this very same resource, you can also come over. Do you want to say it again from here?
Yeah, so if you go to configuration, you will see the same config map on the first, yeah. So I was saying like it's almost the same thing which we're showing here in that case. So if we can either enhance that to be more sophisticated and show both connections and meshing under the same thing, because otherwise we are showing the same thing in two places.
So what if people are able to initiate registration here? What if it showed status of discovered here? I mean, I don't know that was, I might have thrown off. That isn't exactly what Pranav said, but that won't stop me from suggesting.
Yeah. And then we can just have connections page on lifecycle and remove the meshing sub page because it's not required then.
Yep. Good. Yep. One way to think. Yep. One way again here. Just expanding the thought process. There is a task that people do need to perform. That Meshery and any automated bot can only take things so far. And so one of the tasks that users need to manually perform is this registration process. Meshery goes out, discovers the infrastructure. It can determine that, oh, this particular resource, it is a config map. And it is a version 1, and it is a such as it can. There's lots that it can assess and identify, and take action on. It can even auto connect to the daemon set to auto configure it based on your network policy for blah blah blah. Like it can do a lot of that. There's some point by which people want to say, don't do that, Meshery. Like don't hands off, don't touch that, or only do it in this cluster. Or there's some registration process that needs to occur. Now, so in some respects, this mesh sync represents a queue, a backlog of tasks to perform, of discovered entities to review and research. And, if you're like me and you see, like in concept, you might see like a badge, a little notification badge saying that, you've got 400, outstanding items to review and either choose to register or choose to ignore or choose, bucketize. So one nice thing about something like this is it could be that backlog for you, especially if in this, I guess it would be true of the dashboard view as well, is that you could sort by most recently discovered. And then that like, oh yeah, I haven't looked at these. I haven't triaged these. Something that I think we got into a nasty habit of doing is putting the icon on the wrong side. So piece of feedback for somebody to move it over. This is a tabular view. So too is this a tabular view. So the consolidation of the two seems highly possible.
One thing is like if we consolidate it into the dashboard, one problem would be solved like when we transition it to a registered, it won't get lost. So it would always be present at the dashboard. And if a user is like, I found the config map under configuration, it would still always be there, but now it would also get registered the connection and will be present at the connection page. So in that way, he won't get lost. But I think from mesh sync, the connection gets transit to connections, and it gets lost from the mesh sync table.
Sort of following along this same thought process, it's possible to eradicate both of these tables and provide the task that people are performing here, or the tasks are also possible to perform here. Just because that's possible doesn't mean that we should consolidate the UIs. But
we could also provide the user at the match sync with an option that he has registered these particular connections before, means entities before. Just after, means if I am currently logged in today, I registered a user a component. So the next day when I log back in, it shows me under mesh sync that yesterday you registered. It has a log of those components which you registered. That could be helpful.
Very good. Other thoughts? Eventually, as Meshery matures, the hope is that more and more of the resources that Meshery discovers, that they will be automatically triaged, that users won't have to spend as much time performing that activity. The way that that might occur is through policy. So as an example, if Meshery discovers a Prometheus deployment, it may auto-connect and begin to retrieve certain types of metrics. And that could be configured through policy. So I'm just, again, expanding the question, Anybody else have perspective? We have really dug deep into just a couple of topics. Vihas, you're up next, though. You want to cover this API enhancement?
Yeah, but I don't have Meshery set up on this laptop, so I'll just walk through the issue itself. It has the recording, so it will be helpful. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, no, please feel free.
Yeah, I'll share. Yeah. Okay, so this was the behavior before. Okay, please focus on the search and not on the network tab. Just focus on the search, and it will take forever to just search this term. Yeah, it will come up, but eventually, but it takes a lot of time. Maybe 5 to 10 seconds for one term. And this one is the updated behavior. Yeah, so the latency is improved a lot, and it's just super fast right now. And it will just fetch all the matching terms at once. Not pagination wise, but if you search it here, and then it will fetch all of them at once, super fast. So that's my little announcement. Any questions?
Yeah, is search being performed server side entirely?
Yeah, server side. Yeah. I focused on a comment that we are trying to achieve that part to perform the search on the server itself. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Nothing much has changed on front end side, just less API calls. That's it.
So basically, like, what did we change on the server? Like, how did we make this performant?
Yeah. Okay. So the first improvement was to add an index in the in our mesh kit on the component definition table and the relationship table. So while performing a search, I observed that the latency would improve by up to 70% if there was an index there. So that's one part, and the other part was to fetch all the. So now before what it was doing is, now before if you let's say if you search for GCP, then it will fetch all the models, all the components with GCP, and it will for those individual models, it will just send another API call to fetch the relationships and the components. So in total there were like if there are 10 models, and there will be like 10 to like 20 API calls made. And right now,
Yeah.
it's just one API call for all of them. So I just combine it in one response.
Okay, like you enhance the response also. So I did the
Yeah.
relationships and the components in the response itself.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think one thing on the UI that would help is, I don't know if it's already implemented, is just to debounce the search on UI.
I will work on that today. Yeah, that was a comment received by like given by Uzair. So yeah, I will work on that.
Other than that, it's like basically what we should have also done here is like to lazily load, even if we didn't enhance the response of the API, if we would have lazily loaded while we transfer deep into the tree, while we for each model as we go into its relations and component, we could have lazily fetched those rather than prefetching everything at once. That would also help. And I think that would need like having us indexes on the search. I think we should, I don't know, like if we should have indexes on the database table or not, because I'm not much familiar with that.
Because,
but
so yeah,
enhancing the response is good.
Yeah, so indexes can cause an issue if database is updated very often. But in our case, like we don't update it very often, so like we just fetch it at once, and so in this case, indexing will work fine, and the DB will not degrade. So yeah, that's why I use indexing. Yeah. That's the only reason for like I use indexing. If there was a database which is constantly getting updated, then indexing will slow down the database eventually. So in that case, it doesn't make sense, but in this case, it does, because it is improving latency by, as I said, like before it used to take like 300 milliseconds, but now the query is performed in 50 or maybe 30 milliseconds. So that's a huge improvement. So adding index did make sense.
To enhance the response, so do we need a join on tables now?
No, I don't use join anymore. I don't use join anymore.
Yeah, what do you use?
Okay, so before we used to use join, but right now I just I use a simple select query from the component definition where model ID equals to this ID. There is no join. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, in the response to that query, does all the connection, component info come with that response?
Yeah. So that part I will also improve. I will just keep the required info, not all of them. So that way we can also improve the bandwidth. Yeah. Right now, like entire table is coming, but we can always compact it down to the required fields only.
Nice.
So maybe we might add like it as a query param if we
it is
want that or not.
Yeah, so it is a key parameter, and by default we will not send it. So if that is set to true, and only then we will perform searches and we'll send it. Yeah. So yeah, that's it from me.
Nice. Yeah,
thank you, Vyas.
Yeah, Lee.
One of those concepts that is hopefully something that we can make fairly ubiquitous to the APIs, and hopefully all the APIs eventually are relatively uniform in their behavior, is something like, well, it's something like if you were to do a select, if just a generic standard get or a generic standard select for a specific model. And by the way, for the rest of us who are still trying to figure out what the heck everybody's talking about, I want to pull this up real fast, just leave it sitting in the background so that we can visually digest it while we talk about this. Good. So the concepts, I think this is a slide in the deck that was just shared in the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
And so feel free to reference it there or make some comments on this post for everybody. But the concepts that we're speaking of right now are these concepts. And so actually we're talking about
Models.
yeah. So when the user wants to peruse a tree full of models and expand the tree in that UI that we were just looking at, they expand the tree and they see more, the rest of these resources as well, depending upon how far they kind of go down the tree. Yeah, when a user just Vihas, and I guess this is for others as well, I think in the past we've suggested that as a standard way for the APIs to behave, that if a user were to request a particular model, one instance of a model like the Prometheus model, that Prometheus model might have any number of relationships defined and certain components inside of it and so on. And maybe the user wants all that info, or maybe the client wants all that info, or maybe it doesn't. And in part what Abid and I know you're saying as well is like, hey, how do we strike the balance between, in terms of efficiency, in terms of like reducing the number of calls based on the typical query that a client might ask of this registry, right? And so Vihas, you're improving the performance, which is wonderful. It might be that I would propose to you all that the sort of a standard behavior when someone were to select an individual resource, whether that's a model or a subcategory or a category, is that the response that is returned is the full description of that particular model, all of its details, and potentially then just by default, a list, an itemization, a manifest, if you will, a list of the sub-resources that it contains, not their full descriptions, but if there are 8 components inside, that it would say components 8, and it would have the IDs of each of those components, such that you can then make a subsequent query for a specific, maybe it would have ID and maybe the display name, something unique. Go ahead, Vihas.
Yeah, same, a display name and an ID, that's what I was saying.
Well, I could have just saved all my breath. You could have just said that from the start.
Actually, like this kind of gets back to what GraphQL might have promised us, like selectively getting the data that's required.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
We're a little bit over time today. I hope that it was okay that we delved in fairly deep on just like 3 or 4 things, but to make sure, did we miss anybody's agenda items that we needed to cover? Do we have a continuous integration meeting tomorrow, a build and release meeting? Do we know?
No, it's next week.
Okay. Gotcha. That's right. Tomorrow we'll have the CNCF tag network meeting. I chair that group. You're all welcome to come. It gets even more nerdy. It should be on the calendar, on the community calendar. If not, I'll drop it into the. Anyway, it's one of the CNCF technical advisory groups. It focuses on network, which contains I don't know, 30 something CNCF projects. Meshery is one of them. And so I just got done nominating a few other co-chairs, and that tomorrow will be their first time coming together as chairs on the call. Anyway, I'll send over details in Slack in case anybody's interested. Yeah. Speaking of nominating people, there are a few people that need to be nominated for maintainership around these parts. So that needs to get done. Anybody have anything else? Did anyone submit to the KubeCon EU? The CFP deadline was just this last weekend. We have to get more. We were super organized about that a couple of years ago, for a couple of years. And we've just been so headlong focused on functionality that we've forgotten to do our marketing, our DevRel. but it's very much needed. You all are welcome to use any of the materials that are out there in the community drive or anywhere that you find them. Take those materials, make them your own. Go explain any aspect of the projects, Meshery or other project. Put your name on it, please. Any other thoughts? No? Good. For most of you, Wednesday is almost over. For the rest of us, hump day is here. All right. Very good. Pranav, thank you for hosting. All right. This concludes our broadcast session, I suppose. Good. It is nice to see all you guys. Thanks for the, we'll be dispensing candy just after this. You want to drop on by, we'll give you the candy. Great.
Feel free to wish me a happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. It's going to happen. Oh, man. My birthday is coming up. Terrible. Is that what you said, Daniel? Did you expose me?
No, me.
It's your birthday. Oh, okay.
Today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Good.
I'm tooting my horn here.
Oh, awesome. Today is it, huh? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Are you gonna have family around? Maybe some sisters come over, celebrate or something?
Yep. Nah. Yeah.
Bad inside joke there, Dan. Sorry. Hey, happy birthday, Dan. That's awesome. Fair enough. Good. It just so happens my birthday's coming up. That's why I thought I didn't hear what you said. I'm not such a narcissist that I thought that you were. Anyway, okay. Yep. Come on. We'll see all you later.
Thank you.